Hi, welcome to GMAT skill of the day. Today's skill is how to decipher meaning of a long sentence. So I was reading this article in Economist, exactly what China gets wrong. And here's the link if you're interested, a pretty interesting article. And when I read this sentence in this article, the thought that came to my head was that, there are two ways of reading a sentence. One is a passive way, okay, in which what you're doing is you're simply reading the words, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you. And the second is, and I want to write this in a different color, second is an active reading style. And I'm going to demonstrate that as well. And you, if you are an GMAT student, you know that active reading style is what is going to get you to that 90th plus percentile in verbal. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate both to you, and I'm going to show you the extent of difference an active reading style has over passive reading style. Okay, so if I were to read the sentence in a passive manner, here's what I'm going to do. Early on, China's rulers decided on a giant utilitarian experiment leading to a largely COVID-free life for the majority at the cost of forfeited individual liberties, pain for those in lockdown, and national isolation. Okay, I read the sentence in a single breath. Okay, now I did get some sense of it. We are talking about China's rulers. Okay, they did some kind of experiment, but beyond that, it's a little hard for me to piece all the parts of the sentence together to come up with the meaning that the author wanted to communicate, right? Because when I was reading the sentence, I was reading it in a very passive manner. I was not engaged with the various parts of the sentence. Okay, which is why if I asked you the question, what came at the cost of these forfeited individual liberties, a majority of you would draw a blank if you read it in the passive style of reading. Okay, and that is what we're going to talk about over here. What is the right way of engaging with a piece of text if your intent is to understand what it is that the author wants to communicate, right? After all, if I'm reading an article in Economist, my intent very well be to understand what is it that the author wants to communicate, right? What is it exactly that China gets wrong according to the author? Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate to you what is the right way, or what is the active way of reading the sentence. And let me make this video smaller so that you can concentrate on the text over here. So early on, okay, this means that we're talking about something. Sorry about that. Early on, China's rulers decided on. So we're talking about China's rulers decided on something. On what? So my pause point was here, on a giant utilitarian experiment. Now, this word over here, and I'm going to mark this with a different thing, because I may not everybody may know the meaning of this word. Okay, but that's okay, we're not going to worry about that. China's rulers decided on a giant, a big experiment, or some kind of experiment, right? Some experiment. Okay, leading to means that this experiment led to something. This experiment led to something. Led to what? Led to largely, okay, that's good, COVID-free life. That's amazing. Led to largely COVID-free life. Led to, I'll just say COVID-free life for majority, for 50% plus, okay, people. Okay, good. And I'm going to pause here. Okay, so all of these are the points where I paused. Okay, so over here also, and as you can see, wherever I paused, I made sure I made a mental note of what it is that I'm reading. Okay, and I understood all of that, and that is what I call as an active reading style. Okay, now what comes next? At the cost of. At the cost of means there is something negative over here. Now, what was the positive thing? We already said that this was a positive thing, leading to a largely COVID-free life, and that's a positive thing. We understand that from the context, right? At the cost means there is something negative over here, right? Cost of what? Forfeited individual liberties. Okay, pain for those in lockdown. Pain is another negative thing, and national isolation is another negative thing. So these were the three costs: forfeited individual liberties, pain for those in lockdown, and national isolation, right? So these are the three negatives of the result that we got, that it was a largely COVID-free life for the majority. Okay, so overall, this is what China did some experiment, okay, and that experiment led to COVID-free life for majority. It also led to what? I mean, this COVID-free life came at a cost, or you can say that this experiment also led to, maybe I can draw this over here, right? This experiment led to these costs. Forfeited, so I'll just write down these costs, three costs over here. Okay, so now if I were to ask the question, what came at the cost of forfeited individual liberties, pain for those in lockdown, and national isolation, your answer would be the largely COVID-free life. That was the impact of the experiments that China's rulers did. That impact, this COVID-free life for majority of the people, came at a cost. What was the cost? The cost was, again, these three things. Okay, now if I were to summarize the whole thing, okay, how did I read this sentence? I still have the same level of language understanding that I had before I started this video, right? I still have the same level of vocabulary before I started this video, right? But now with this active reading mechanism, I have a much better understanding of what it is that the author wants to communicate, okay? And how did I engage? How did I engage with the sentence? I engaged by pausing at appropriate points. Okay, and these appropriate points vary from people to people. Okay, at appropriate points, I asked probe questions at those points. Okay, I asked probe questions. Now, what were these probe questions? China's rulers decided on a utilitarian experiment. Okay, they did some experiment. Here, I didn't ask any probe question, but I just summarized, or I summarized in my own words, or I paraphrased in my own words, right? Leading to a largely COVID-free life. Okay, what led to the largely COVID-free life? This experiment. So here I asked a question at the cost of. Okay, when I read at the cost of, I asked the question. Okay, what does at the cost of mean? That okay, there is something that some negative thing happened, right? So here also I'm paraphrasing after asking a probe question. So all of this thought process is happening in my head when I am reading the sentence in an active manner. That is what I call as being completely engaged with the sentence. And when you do that, the understanding of the sentence is absolutely 100% in your head, because you understand everything that the author intended to communicate. So my suggestion to you today, whatever sentences you read, you promise yourself that for at least 3 sentences, you are going to consciously pause and read, and as you're reading, you will engage with the sentence so that you get the maximum out of it. If you do that consciously for 3 sentences on a day-to-day basis, you will realize that your ability to comprehend sentences will improve considerably. Okay. And to get you started for today's exercise, I have selected 2 passages for you. Here is the first, or 2 sentences for you. Here's the first sentence. The sentence is from the same article. So I want you to read the sentence, apply the pausing method, active reading, and tell me in the comments where all in this sentence did you pause to assimilate the meaning. There is one additional sentence. This is from another article, again from the same issue of Economist. The link is over here. Another interesting read. So same exercise over here. Where all in this sentence, as you read the sentence, did you pause to assimilate the meaning? Write that down in the comments and tell me whether you understood the meaning in its entirety for both these sentences. With this, happy learning and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.